Hi guys, welcome back to 30 Days to Your First Website Design, a Tuts Plus premium course. I'm Ian Yates, and today we're going to round off all the theory we've covered by talking about white space. We'll begin as always by taking a quick look at what we're going to cover during this video. We'll start off by discussing white space, what it is and why it's your friend. Then, before we jump into the next video, we're just going to quickly recap the past 10 lessons, the planning and the conceptual stage of this series. Now, white space is much misunderstood. It's often considered to be the bits that are missing from a layout. Actually though, white space can more accurately be considered to be what clearly defines the elements which occupy the positive space in your designs. By using white space properly, you can draw focus to what's really important. In web design, we can use white space in the form of margins and padding around objects, lending a consistency to a layout and often aiding to declutter a page. White space doesn't have to be white either. We're really talking about negative space. Take graphic design on the radio.com for example. The white space we're referring to isn't actually the white bit, although there is strong spacing evident within the white section too. But really, we're looking at the blue background which brings your attention directly to the content. Proper spacing can also improve legibility of text, and we'll discuss that further down the line. In short though, the lesson here is to embrace white space. Don't dismiss it as something which isn't there. Okay, time quickly for some further reading. I'd like you to take a look at this article on Web Design Tuts. Using white space or negative space in your designs. It goes over what we've been discussing regarding white space. It talks about micro and macro level spacing and using them in your designs. Now before we jump into the next video, let's have a look back on the theory which we've covered so far. Well, in the first video we started off by looking at planning. Remember that? The importance of planning, or the big bit of the iceberg, dictates that by spending more time planning a website, we'll have to spend exponentially less time actually executing the thing. We then looked at examining our users and the usability of the site from their perspective. We talked about empathy, putting yourself in the shoes of other people in order to understand more effectively their motives and desires. Next up was content. We looked at what typically should and shouldn't be included in your design. We also talked about the negative impact of visual noise. I'm sure you remember MrBottles.com, and including things in your layout which you don't even need. We finished our planning stage by talking about goals. We looked at defining our primary and secondary goals and then aligning them with the user's desires. Then, kicking off our design concept section, we began with a few rules. Not copying the work of others, working backwards from a foregone conclusion, and not using all available bells and whistles for the sake of it. Then, if you remember, we talked about tackling designer's block and gaining inspiration from various places. We even looked at becoming inspired by unlikely sources such as illustrators and architecture. The next video examined style and theme, pouring several examples including grunge, minimalism and current trends such as vintage modernism. We looked at defining a mood, allowing the user to relate to the site and ensuring that the design is memorable. Lastly, we looked at longevity and its effect on your work. We then looked at conceptual sketching, most specifically wireframing. We tackled the application Balsamic and mocked up a quick wireframe of our own. Grids was next on the menu, so we dived into what grids are, figured out why we should use them, and looked at some examples of sites whose designs do just that. We took a peek at the 960 grid system, downloaded it, and drafted a design using the 960 12-column Photoshop template. Then we looked at what the baseline grid can do for our typography. Lastly, we looked at the anatomy of a web page, before finishing up with a quick glimpse of white space and its role in your design. Throughout these videos on planning and design concepts, you gained a good understanding of what's involved before actually jumping into your design. Planning, as we said, is the big bit of the iceberg, but now that we've given consideration to all the preliminary aspects of our design process, we can dive into some more practical work. Next time on 30 Days to Your First Website Design, we're going to dive into the specifics and get our hands dirty with site elements. I'm Ian Yates, and from all of us here at Tuts Plus, thanks for watching.